Hi, it's Tamara from Moogly, and it is January 25th, 2022, and we are here live. So thank you so much for joining me today. I need to hit refresh rather, on my computer here so I can watch along with you and see your wonderful comments here. There we go. All right, and now my computer is all caught up as well. So hi, everybody. Hi, Helen. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, hello. So today I want to talk to you about possibilities. I've been trying to think about how to talk about this. It's not something I've talked about before in a live or a class or anything. Kind of a new topic for me to try and discuss or teach today. And it's more of an idea or a concept or just a realization that I want to make sure everybody has had. And that's that you can take basically any sort of square graph. And what do I mean by that? I'll be showing you here in a few minutes. But basically, if you are familiar with pixels, or if you have worked corner to corner crochet before, or possibly tapestry crochet before, you may have seen this sort of graph. It's also the same kind of graph you'd get if you did, for instance, cross stitching or latch hook. All of these can be crochet colorwork patterns. You can find crochet colorwork patterns all over, in all sorts of crafts, all over the internet, all over the craft store. And I just want to point out some of those possibilities today to open up some more possibilities for you guys, that you realize, you can do things, create basically your own designs in a way, or take designs that are out there and turn them into crochet projects. And really the sky's the limit. I know a lot of people, for instance, love to make things for their favorite sports teams or their favorite TV shows. Now, as a designer, I can't do that. That's like copyright infringement or trademark infringement of their designs, their logos and things. But for you, as an individual, you can make anything you want for your personal home use. So as I say, lots and lots of possibilities out there. So let's go ahead and start talking about it a little bit. I'm going to bring over my overhead camera here so we can take a look at some of these patterns I've been talking about here. So we'll get that switched over here. Just takes a second. All right. Now here, right here, this first one I've got on top, this is a crochet pattern that I made for corner to corner crochet. Now, if you're not familiar with how to corner to corner crochet or how to tapestry crochet, I do have video tutorials for both of those techniques on the YouTube channel. And teaching those is not what today is about. Today is talking about basically the pattern possibilities. Now, this right here, as you can see, is essentially a graph. Like I say, not a pie chart, but a squares graph. If you were to go out and get graph paper and some colored pencils, you could make your own, right? You just color in the squares in different colors. And this was designed for a corner to corner pattern. Now with corner to corner designs, and I have a bigger copy of this in the pattern. This is just a little sample size that I could fit on camera today. But in corner to corner patterns, you start out in one corner and you might basically match your color of yarn to the design. I would use my brown yarn to make the first square and then 2 squares and keep working across basically this direction in rows. Okay. But you could also use this design to do tapestry crochet. For tapestry crochet, you work back and forth here in rows and you change colors depending on the squares again, but you're working back and forth in rows rather than corner to corner. But it's the same picture, you just do it a little differently. So corner to corner, you're making those chunks, those squares, but in tapestry, I've got just a little one I did here yesterday for another purpose. You're just changing out, you could do 1 stitch. This right here is single crochet. The thing that you really want to do is you want to come up with whatever stitch or stitch pattern you're going to use. You want it to make essentially squares. So you could do it where a stitch, like a single crochet or maybe a half double crochet, is that color, represents 1 square. Or you could do 3 double crochets. When I do 3 double crochets, let me just go ahead and make a couple here just so we can measure them out on this little swatch here that honestly doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So ignore the little swatch itself, but let's make 3 double crochets so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see. There's 1 and 2. Oops. Try that again. And you have to think too, each of these are going to be on a different scale. If I use the same yarn and I switch colors every stitch, then my finished picture is going to be a lot smaller than if I do corner to corner, for instance, where they're going to be basically 3 double crochets or 3 half double crochets, depending on the technique. So here I have 3 double crochets. What happens when I measure them? about, we'll say, 1.25 inches wide and about 1.25 inches tall. So I know with 3 double crochets, I can make a square. So I could also choose to decide that each one of these little squares will be 3 double crochets and then change colors back and forth in rows accordingly. Different techniques, same graph. Now this was one that was designed for this one was made specifically for crochet. But what do we have here? This is Free on Yarn Inspirations. It's the Fur Baby Pink Paw print design, designed by Joanne Aston. And this is actually for cross stitch and embroidery. So we can look here. What do we have though? It's basically another pixel graph. Now with embroidery, you can work sometimes little half stitches, but you can make a choice in crochet. Do you want to, like this little square right here? Let me get a little better pointer than my finger here. My finger's a little big for this right now. I'll get a crochet hook. So like this one right here, where it's mostly empty, I would not count that as one. I would count the one next to it, you know, as that color, whatever color I want it to be. And you can take this, you can take colored pencils, whatever you need to do, and decide, you know, what colors you actually want to use. When you see a line like this, you could do that in surface crochet right on top of your blanket or piece, or, you know, whatever it is that you're making, your tote bag, whatever it is that you want to crochet. And here, this is a wonderful thing. When you go to cross stitch or counted cross stitch patterns, you'll see lots and lots of alphabets. These alphabets are ready for you to turn into crochet patterns and personalize your crochet patterns. Again, you can do them corner to corner style, working your way across this way. You can go back and forth in rows. You can work in the round, whatever you like to do. This one, for instance, and I really want to point this one out, again, the Anchor Fur Baby Pink Paw print on yarnspirations.com, because included in this pattern, they have the entire alphabet, because of course, not everybody's, you know, furry friend is named Bella. So they've included the entire alphabet for you. So there's an entire alphabet for you, dozens of them out there in all sorts of cross stitch and embroidery books and patterns. Again, lots of free ones that you can use to do your crochet patterns. Just another possibility for you to get crochet patterns from. Here's another one. This is a printout I got from, and I want to give everybody credit here. This is from patterns from candypatterns.com, and they are curated by itsalwaysautumn.com. And again, I've linked to all of this stuff in the blog post linked in the description today. But these are a little different. These are perler bead patterns. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with perler beads. My kids loved them. They're basically little round plastic beads that you put on a grid, and then you melt it with an iron and some parchment paper that keeps it from sticking to iron, and it all kind of melts and glues together. Very fun craft for kids, right? Well, guess what? I mean, if we take a look, they're just more pixel graphs. So you can go find perler bead patterns and turn any of those into your crochet pattern. These are some kawaii ones, super, super cute. But another possibility, go, you know, Google perler bead patterns. If you've got your kids, they've designed their own perler bead patterns. You could turn around and turn those into crochet patterns for them as well. And that would be something, again, just a really fun craft to really get the kids involved at that point. And plus, these are just really super cute. And I will say in perler bead patterns, you will find lots of inspiration for those superheroes and other popular figures. So this was actually just the front page there of that Bella one, just to show you what that looks like. So here it is in cross stitch, but there's no reason those little squares couldn't also be crocheted. And then the other possibility I wanted to talk to you about today is this one right here. What's this? This is a latch hook pattern. This one is again from Yarn Inspirations. It comes with all these instructions. It comes with their latch hook kit, but this could just as easily be a crochet pattern. Again, we've got pixels, we've got our color coding. We could start at a corner and go in corner to corner. We go back and forth, tapestry style, back and forth in rows, however you want to do it. You can follow their color suggestions. You can decide on your own colors, however you want to do it. And of course, in addition to all these possibilities for designs that are already out there, things that you can get, convert, turn into your own projects, you can also make your own. There are a bunch of websites and links that I've put in today's blog post. I've linked all the things I've shown you here. But the other one I want to show you is called Stitch Fiddle. And I was just looking, make sure I got the name exactly right. Stitchfiddle.com. Again, I've linked it in the blog post. That's a site that I used to make this one. It has both free and premium options, different possibilities of how you can use the site depending on what you get. But you can basically go onto their site and create your own pixel picture. You can upload photos from the internet. You can upload pictures you've taken. You can upload, whatever you want, and it'll pixelate it a little bit for you. You can sit there and make your own design. And of course, you don't need to use technology. Like I said, you can get some blank graph paper and some colored pencils and really just start coloring in whatever you like. Possibilities are endless. And I think there's some websites too online that are designed more for kids, where, for kids to make pixel art just for fun. Let your kids make some pixel art, you make some pixel art, and you've created your own crochet pattern. Now, I see a really great question in the comments. Can you talk more about how to determine the finished size? And that is a great question. To do that, of course, you're going to need to make a gauge swatch. So you'll need to get whatever yarn it is you want to use and decide, do I want to do, little single crochets? Do I want great big, blocks of color? Do I want to do corner to corner? Make a gauge swatch, maybe make a couple if you're just still deciding which technique you want to use. And then you can measure out how big is each one of those little squares going to be. So this one we measured out was 1.25 inches. For the sake of ease for our discussion today, we'll say it was an even inch. Let's say this was 1 inch square exactly. Then you can look at your finished design and say we wanted to make a great big A. Say we're just making the A. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 squares across. We'd probably want a little border on each side. So 12 squares across, we'll say. That would be 12 inches. That's an easy one because 1 inch is very simple. So with real numbers, of course, you probably want to break out the calculator or a pen and paper. But it'd be the same thing if you were doing it in tapestry crochet. Tapestry crochet, you could just work up a big square of single crochets or half double crochets, whatever is the squarest stitch for you. For some people, it's single crochet. For some, it's half double crochet. But you can just work that up and count. Okay, I get, basically what's your gauge? If you get 10 stitches in 4 inches and you need to have 20 stitches, then it's going to be 8 inches wide. So you can kind of measure, take that gauge swatch, measure out, what size those stitches that you're going to be making are, and then see how wide your pattern's going to be. And that's going to determine, so it's going to be determined not just by what stitch you use, but also the size of yarn you use. If you use something like Bernette Blanket, that's going to be, those 3 double crochets are going to be really, really big. If you use something like thread, those 3 double crochets or that single crochet is going to be super tiny. So that's again, one of those things where you kind of have to make your gauge swatch and then measure from there. So Adrian asks, do you have any tips on creating charts for Amigurumi? Yes, because it's in the right round, everything is shifted slightly. That one is really, really difficult. And I have seen some graph paper, if you will, designed specifically for tapestry and things like that in the round, where the squares are sort of offset slightly. They sort of have a lean to them. It's difficult to find. I've only come across it once or twice. It's out there. I have to look for it online. But if you can find some online and print out your own, that might be the best option. The other thing I know that some people do for their tapestry in the round to prevent that shifting so that you can use a chart like this and get a little bit more straight line is work it in the back loop only. Something about working in the back loop only, and I never took physics, so I don't know that I'm great at explaining it, but when you work in the back loop only, it keeps those stitches lining up just a little bit straighter. So if you are working this sort of pattern in the round, working in that back loop only will help it get rid of a lot of that lean. That lean is definitely a factor when you're working tapestry style in the round. So that's something to keep in mind. Look for that paper if you can, but for mosaic crochet, overlay or inset, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. Mosaic crochet and overlay crochet, you're laying, different stitches over. It's just sort of a different technique. I'm sure you could use charts like this to inspire your overlay crochet, but it's not going to be as direct a translation, I'd say. That said, I will say I've made mosaic crochet patterns. They're absolutely beautiful. I don't know that I've really designed one from scratch, so my brain doesn't work that way with mosaic crochet. There might be other people who can say, oh yes, I see exactly how to turn that into a mosaic crochet pattern. but my brain isn't, doesn't quite work that way with Mosaic crochet yet. I think I need to do some more of it. But yes, definitely try that back loop only trick. It's really great. Basically, you know, if you do a color work pattern or technique, you know, you could do this in friendship bracelets if you like to do that sort of knotting technique, or there's probably a way to use these charts to inspire your macrame designs. Anything, you know, where you've got basically that binary system, you can create a chunk of color or a block that's filled in or empty. And don't forget about filet crochet too. It's not something you see very often anymore. And I'll admit I haven't done a lot of filet crochet myself. But filet crochet is sort of that, where you either fill in or don't fill in the square that you're crocheting. Hard to explain, again, a whole different technique. But you could also use filet crochet, sort of that doily look, where you can use these charts to create those designs as well. So lots of possibilities, lots of techniques. And every time you learn a new crochet technique, you can think, you know, is this something I can translate into something like this? Can I use these other charts and inspirations to help me open up the more of the possibilities that you can make with crochet or whatever your craft is? So yes, you can make names with filet crochet. You'll see lots of charts sort of like this for the filet crochet, but as I say, that is a whole different technique as well. A little bit more binary, not so much color work. It's solid or empty. So another possibility there. But so thank you so much, you guys, for joining me. Definitely check out, here are just some of those links that the video will be embedded here when finished. The video will be in the blog post, but Stitch Fiddle is the name of that pattern. Don't forget about your perler bead patterns. I've linked to that example, the paw print and letter patterns. So if you wanted to check out and get that alphabet, I've linked that in the blog post as well. And of course, the llama and cactus pattern that I designed. So you can check that out too. So I think we'll go ahead and switch back to the other camera. But yeah, I think, yeah, that about covers it. So I hope that makes sense. Like I say, it's just an idea that's been percolating in my head that I wanted to make sure to tell people, you know, the possibilities aren't limited. You can, any graph, pixel, anything out there that you can find in squares, you can turn into a crochet pattern pretty easily. Now, one thing I haven't experimented with, but I know some people like to do, is the graphs where they're more honeycomb like that. Try it with a moss stitch pattern where they kind of overlap like that. Maybe that would work really neat for mosaic crochet. Just so many different things out there. And honestly, like I always say, one of my favorite things about crochet is that there's so much to learn. I'm still learning new techniques all the time. And I think people are always inventing them. It's just very exciting. So explore the possibilities and have fun with it. And, you know, who knows, might even find a new craft too in the same time. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please do go to the link in the description. I will be embedding this video there, as well as the one I did earlier on Facebook, which has all the latest Moogly news, giveaways, patterns, and all that sort of fun. So thank you so much, you guys, and I'll see you again real soon. Have a great day, everybody.